Sionagad, Jennifer Loren, Dawado. Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Loren, Cherokee Nation citizen and host of Osio, Voices of the Cherokee People. Welcome to Chalagi, wherever we are. In today's episode, we'll be discussing Cherokees who answer the call of arms, our warriors. Over the last 200 years and in every major American conflict, Cherokees have always fought for our collective freedoms with valor. Early on, sometimes even opposing each other and the federal government. We will talk to active duty and veteran personnel about what duty of country represents for them. But before we begin, we want to let you know that everyone participating today, whether in studio or working remotely, has been fully vaccinated and given a COVID-19 test before entering this building. Our staff and crew are following social distancing best practices as well. I am now honored to introduce Marine Corps veteran and Cherokee Speaker Meda Nix, who will lead us in an opening prayer.
Ida dado lista. Unetla nahi. Gagayu kosanale. Gayo. Gatiyosino kosanale. Gaisa. Eligus agayu wilohi. Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you today. I just want to tell you, I just praise you. There's nothing that I can say to just tell you how much I love you. I thank you and I praise your name. Thank you for the things that you do, not only for me, but for others, Lord. Thank you for everything that you do for us. You're so good, Lord, when we don't deserve your goodness, when we don't deserve your love. You're always there for us. Lord, as I come and go today, Lord, just help me to remember who I am. And Lord, help me to remember what you say, Jesus, that no matter what happens, Lord, no matter what comes my way, Jesus, that you're always going to be with me, that you'll never leave me. And I thank you for that. Be with those today that just need a touch from you, Lord, whether it be spiritual, mental, physical, Lord. There's so many hurting people. Lord, just reach out. Help us to reach out. Help me to be what you need me to be, Lord. I just want to thank you. I just can't thank you enough. Go with me now. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the safe trip. And Lord, for my brothers and sisters here, Jesus, Lord, just bless them. Thank you for everything that you do for me. I just love you so much. I thank you and I praise you. It's in your name that I ask these things. Amen.
Wado, Meda. Native Americans, including Cherokees, have long served their country at the highest rates of any single racial or ethnic group. That's a notable point of pride for our people. Today, we will hear from Deputy Chief of the Cherokee Nation, Bryan Warner, and Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., and discuss with him the nation's services and programs designed to support active service members and veterans. We will also learn more about a Navy Cross recipient, the famous Navy warrior Jacko Clark. Then, veteran health care and housing. Our priorities in Principal Chief Hoskin's administration will discuss our tribe's latest efforts with former Chief, Deputy Chief, and current Secretary of Veterans Affairs, S. Joe Crittenden, and Cherokee Speaker and Immersion School teacher, Meda Nix. We'll take a look at Cherokee Nation's Warrior Flight, where veterans travel from Oklahoma to Washington, D.C. to visit war memorials and to honor fellow warriors. Then Tribal Councilor Johnny Kidwell, a retired career veteran of the Coast Guard, will wrap us up. We hope you'll stick around for everything we have in store for you today. But right now, I'd like to introduce the Deputy Chief of the Cherokee Nation, Bryan Warner. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your remarks.
Thank you, Jennifer, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here today. CO, as Cherokee people, we have always revered and honored our warriors, people willing to fight for us, our values, and our way of life. Native people have the highest service per capita of any population within the United States Armed Forces, as well as a higher concentration of women service members. We know this. The first Americans of this land have always been the first Americans to step up to protect our country. Coming up on this special edition of Cherokee, Wherever We Are, you'll learn more about some of the unique ways we pay tribute to our heroes, including the annual Cherokee Nation Warrior Flight, a trip we have tabled for 2 years due to COVID, but will soon be starting again. It is a chance to host Cherokee veterans at war memorials built in their honor in Washington, D.C., and is one of the most popular things we do for our veterans. We do say thank you, even if these men and women are decades removed from their service days. This year, Cherokee veterans who participate will see the dedication of the public art piece devoted to Native veterans housed at the National Museum of the American Indian. One of the things I'm most proud of is the forthcoming State Veterans Center in Sequoia County. We fought for this center, and I know the community of Sallisaw will be warm and welcoming to the veterans and their families and the center staff. The facility will thrive through our unique public, private, and tribal partnership. Our veterans pledge their lives to preserve our freedoms, and they deserve to enjoy all the services and care we can offer. We are looking forward to showing off our Cherokee hospitality when that state center is open. Our commitment to veterans keeps growing, and the Cherokee Nation Veterans Center will always be the hub of assistance. Any veteran looking for help in navigating federal applications or seeking any kind of health care service, or just a place for some camaraderie and friendship, I encourage you to visit the Cherokee Nation Veterans Center and dedicated support staff that is there. It's a place where bonds are strengthened because of the shared experiences. Cherokee veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. I'm confident that each of us knows at least one man or woman who has bravely served to protect us. To our nation's military veterans and their families, Cherokee Nation says, "Wadon." We are forever grateful. We hold you in the highest regard and will never forget your service and your sacrifices. Wadon.
Wado, Deputy Chief, thank you so much for joining us and for your words of wisdom.
Well, thank you, Jen.
All right, have a good day. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, Chuck Hoskin Jr., for his remarks.
Osio, citizens of the Cherokee Nation, like most tribes nationwide, have a deep commitment to the American military. That history and that bravery of Cherokee men and women are why we pay our respects to veterans every day and at every public event the Cherokee Nation hosts. We recognize those who have fought and are still fighting battles, those who have served, and those who gave their lives for our collective freedoms. Our people have served with distinction in every major conflict for more than 200 years. That heritage of service as soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen is something we, as Cherokees, all take great pride in. Cherokee people have been willing to answer the call to serve this country, even though this country often tried to annihilate our tribe and our culture. As federal policies negatively impacted our families, Cherokee people gave of themselves for America. My father served in the United States Navy, working on the flight deck of the USS Independence. He stepped forward when the nation needed him to serve. I continue to be inspired by him and all veterans who answered the call to duty. One of many lessons I've learned from my dad is that military veterans, by and large, are not looking for personal recognition. But they do deserve our thanks and utmost respect. At the Cherokee Nation, we are doing more than ever to ensure our veterans know how much we appreciate them. We've increased the services offered by our tribe to support our veterans and their families. When I took office, I asked the Council of the Cherokee Nation to approve the creation of a cabinet-level Secretary of Veterans Affairs, because it's that important to me to keep building on the foundation of support we created for our veterans. Today, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs acts on behalf of Cherokee veterans, overseeing the Cherokee Nation Veterans Center and Cherokee Warrior Memorial, and our many partnerships, including the VA Hospital and the Eastern Oklahoma Food Bank. We are so blessed that my good friend, S. Joe Crittenden, Cherokee Nation's former Deputy Principal Chief, once again answered the call to service and agreed to serve in this role. Without doubt, he is the right man to serve as Secretary. He's one of the most fair, honest, and dedicated individuals I've ever met. As a Navy veteran, he understands the needs of those who served and continues to fight tirelessly to ensure those needs are met. With his leadership, we are collaborating to do more for our veterans than ever before. We're creating more food drives for veterans and their families, and we are working with the Department of Defense to build more than 20 new homes in Tahlequah just for Cherokee veterans. No military veteran should ever have to experience home insecurity or struggle to find a meal. Remembrance and reverence are a big part of Cherokee culture. Our ancestors fought, endured hardships, and persevered for our collective freedom. Our military heroes, likewise, fought and endured hardships, so today we can remain free. That's why the Cherokee people have always and will always respect any man or woman who has made sacrifices to protect and defend our nation's liberties. Wado.
Wado, Chief Hoskin, if you don't mind joining me over here on the couch for a little Q&A on this very important topic. Chief, both you and Deputy talked about the rates of Cherokees serving in the military. Why do you think that the Cherokee have been so willing to serve, even as the government tried to eliminate our culture and our existence?
I think about that a lot. I think a couple of reasons. One is I think Cherokee people naturally see themselves as something bigger than themselves. I mean, that's how we've survived, is we've had each other's back. So I think it comes natural when there is a call to action to protect people, that Cherokee people naturally run towards that. I think the other thing to think about is many Cherokees volunteered for service within the living memory of some great atrocities in this country towards Native Americans, including not only our forced removal, but the imposition of the state of Oklahoma over tribal lands and allotment. And yet people stepped up to serve. I think that Cherokee people also cherish freedom. We've been practicing democracy for about 200 years as Cherokee people. And so I think those values are things that we hope for the United States. We think the United States on her best day believes in those things, even when we're in the wake of periods of time when the country doesn't seem to adhere to those values. So I think those things drive people to serve that are Cherokee citizens.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Warrior Flight. So you have been to Washington, D.C. with veterans as they have toured the memorials. What is that like for you to witness that?
Well, it's very powerful. I mean, it's one of the, I think, great ways that we honor veterans, certainly those veterans that are on the flight, but also sending a message to all our veterans that we want to do something to elevate them. I'll tell you though, what's really special is it's one thing to go see, say, the World War II monument in Washington, D.C., or the Vietnam Memorial, but it's something else to go there with men and women to whom those monuments were dedicated. There's a different feeling there when you're seeing them witnessing that. That's a really special feeling that you really can only capture in that moment.
Yeah, and those are some really powerful sites to visit as well. Okay, so let's talk about the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, S. Joe Crittenden, is joining us a little bit later, and we'll talk more about this. But we'd like to hear your take on the importance of Cherokee Nation and treating PTSD among veterans.
Right. Well, it's a real issue, and it leads to other problems, both physical health problems and mental health problems in addition to PTSD. One thing that we believe in the Cherokee Nation is when the United States commits itself to military action, we have to understand that we owe responsibility to those that come back, that remain wounded. Those wounds sometimes don't come out until years later in the form of PTSD and other problems, mental health problems. So that's one of the reasons we have to build up a mental health capacity in the Cherokee Nation. We looked at what we're doing in our health system, and it's really remarkable. We've grown a great deal. We provide a lot of services, including to our veterans. Behavioral health, mental health assistance is where there's a real gap. And so building that up will benefit the veterans. Because we have a veterans department led by S. Joe Crittenden, and he'll talk more about this, we really engage with our veterans. And my hope is that his department, through its sort of natural interaction with veterans, will make sure they know about these services. We have to build those services up. As we do that, we will serve our veterans better, just as they served us.
Great. And my last question here is, what do you hope that veterans watching out there today glean from today's show? Well,
I hope they gain a deeper sense that Cherokee Nation appreciates them. We try to do it all the time. We do it when we have events, make sure veterans are recognized. Just recently, we gave some blankets to some veterans who just happened to come in the complex, and we saw they had a Vietnam War era hat on or a Marines hat on. So we try to go out of our way to do that. This show, though, reaches so many people. And I hope that it shows our veterans that whether you live here in the reservation or whether you live anywhere in the country, we want to reach out to you. We want to hear from you, and we want to honor you. I think this shows a good way to do that.
All right. Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us, Chief Hoskin.
Thank you.
Previously on an episode of the Emmy Award-winning Osio Voices of the Cherokee People, we documented the Cherokee Warrior Flight, an annual trip escorting a group of veterans to Washington, D.C.'s war memorials in honor of their service to our country. Let's take a look.
When they contacted me about this particular flight, I told them, I said, well, you know, I'd love to go.
This trip is something I've looked forward to for a while. It means a lot to me.
My name is Charles Scott, and I was in World War II.
W.C. Chamberlain. I was in World War II.
Served in the Navy in 1944 to 1946. I was in the Philippines on a cargo ship. After they dropped the bombs, of course, the war was over, and they told us to unload everything there on the docks and come home.
I was in the Navy for 4 years and in World War II from 1942 until 1946. I grew up a lot, you know, as most young kids do that join the service like that when they're young.
I had a dad, he was World War I veteran, and he had 7 boys, and every one of those boys went to the military. 4 in World War II and 3 in Korea, and 4 brothers are on this trip. I think that's what a tribute to my dad. I'm proud to be a veteran.
We have some very special customers on board this aircraft today. We have some veterans from the Korean War and World War II, and we would like to honor them today, if we could, by letting them board first. And thank you very much for your service to our country.
I was in the Army Air Force. That was before there was ever a regular Air Force. I was in France 21 days after D-Day. There was a patrol of 5 of us that was sent to the center of Paris. They told us to see if they fired at us. I thought, well, that seems to be an indication of how much expendable we are. It's probably a 2-mile walk, and that was the most eerie thing that I ever went through. But we took pictures of the Arc de Triomphe there, and I think I got the names of all 5 in that patrol. I just can't imagine a society putting up with what Hitler managed to accomplish. It had to happen. Everybody had to pull in unison to take care of the situation. I can't tell you what it felt like. We knew that everybody was going.
The new World War II memorial is something that you'll never forget.
I thought that it would be just a good thing to do, to come back and see the memorials and see the shipmates' names that was on the memorial that had lost their lives.
This trip, it means a lot to me. There was 4 of us went and 2 came back. My older brother and I were the ones that came back. My younger brother was, the last time I saw him, he was in high school. He was shot down over Linz, Austria, and I had a letter from my older brother that there were no parachutes, and he went up and took care of his belongings. But I will be looking.
It's just a lot of history, and I enjoy seeing this history.
I think it's very important to memorialize those military incidents.
My only son was killed in Vietnam. He got killed in 1972. My son's name is Edward Burnett. He's on that memorial, you know.
All of those memorials like that, I think is very important. It's history. I mean, we can't ignore our history. If the young kids have an opportunity to go view them, to visit them. I don't know how many families nowadays take their children to those types of things, but I would hope that they do. And these types of memorials are things that keep that alive.
Our generation everybody was involved in the war, and had to be. I would think that the world leaders would at least be able to absorb enough of the history of the catastrophe that World War II was to keep from having something like that again.
Of course, we encourage you to watch the entire Warrior Flight story and many more Cherokee documentaries on our website, free of charge and at your convenience. That is OsiyoTV. Now we welcome a legend in the Cherokee Nation, a previous Principal Chief, Deputy Chief, and current Secretary of Veterans Affairs and Navy man Stanley Joe Crittenden, known as S. Joe Crittenden. Secretary Crittenden also served on the committee to build a National Native American Veterans Memorial, which was installed in 2020. Also joining us is a Marine veteran, Cherokee First Language speaker, Miss Meda Nix. CO Nagad, thank you so much for joining us today.
We're glad to be here.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to having this conversation. We'll just do Q&A, and I'll start with you, Secretary Crittenden. A lot has been done in the last 10 years for Cherokee warriors, our veterans, and I know you are responsible for beginning all of the warrior flights and have been instrumental in building the Veterans Affairs facility, presenting Cherokee Warrior medals, as well as the current housing construction for veterans. So can you tell us what motivates you to bring services of this level to our veterans today?
Jennifer, that's a good question, and the being here today and driving up here today and last Sunday going to the church of my choice, we have freedom today because, you know, they say freedom is not free, and it's not. And those people who were in the battles to protect our country, we owe them a debt of gratitude, and we need to do everything we can as a tribe, as people, to make their lives better, to help them through hard times and things that they face from time to time. Some gave, all gave some, as they say, and some gave all. President Lincoln said in his inauguration, our 16th president, to him who bore the battle, the debt that we owe to him, and also his widow if he were killed, and his orphan. It never stops. We need to keep doing those things for them and making their lives better.
Great. Thank you for that. Meda, this is a bit off topic, but very relevant. I would like to point out that during the COVID pandemic, you were among the very first Cherokee speakers to be vaccinated. So I want to thank you so much for your exemplary participation. Why was it important to you to be one of the first people in the country to take the vaccine?
Thank you, Jennifer. In the beginning, I was scared. I was scared like so many people because I didn't know what to expect. I had heard so much about the side effects and of course just not knowing. Anytime we don't know, we tend to have fear, and I was scared. but I was able to participate in a Zoom meeting with other speakers and, of course, the staff from Hastings. And some of the same questions that I had were asked. And so after I heard the speakers asking these questions, it relieved me of the fear that I had. And I felt much better about it. And I'm thankful that I was able to, to receive the vaccine. I don't mind sharing with you that I did contact COVID. And I know because of the vaccine, I didn't suffer like I would have had I not taken the vaccine. So it works. I can say it works.
And you were not shy about sharing that with others in hopes of them being vaccinated too.
No.
We appreciate that. Now, Meda, could you tell us about your experience as a service member, a female service member, and why you volunteered to be in the military?
I was at a point in my life. I just needed something. I just needed something. I share this story kind of funny, but it really was. And I had just, you might say, tried college, and of course that didn't work. I used to say I guess I thought D was for dandy and F was for fine. Of course, I found out later that wasn't the case. But I needed something. I had a sister that was in the Air Force, and I have a brother that served in the Army, and of course another brother that was in the National Guard. And of course at that time I didn't say, we were a military family, and it was just, I actually was supposed to be looking for a job. And of course I went to the post office and ended up going to the Marine Corps recruiting office. And of course this was during Vietnam too, during the Vietnam War. And I walked around and visited the Navy, went to the Navy and the Air Force. But I went back to the Marine Corps, and it was just a matter of, I don't even know. Before you know it, it was just, I was in. And I recall asking the recruiter sitting there, I said, well, can I go home before I go? Because I was in California at the time. My twin and I were with our brother. He lived there, and we were out there to get jobs for the summer. Nevertheless, did I know I was going to get a big job, a job that paid well. But before you know it, I signed up, and I was 20, of course, and at the time I didn't, I was near enough to my 21st birthday that I was able to go on my own signature. And I joined the Marine Corps while I was in California. And I asked the recruiter, I said, well, can I go home first? And he said, well, where's home? I said, Oklahoma. And he said, no, ma'am. He said, this was like on Tuesday. He says, you're leaving next week. I said, oh my. And it just happened that quickly. I signed up on a Tuesday, and the following week I was headed to Parris Island to boot camp. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it. Like I said, I was at a point in my life that I really needed something, and the service, joining the Marine Corps, gave me what I needed.
And you were not the only woman.
No. I went to Parris Island, South Carolina. That was the boot camp for women Marines then. Of course, still is. And I went during July, and it was hot. It was rough. But I've talked about my mother. My mother raised 8 children by herself. She was a strong Cherokee woman. So I got my strength from her work ethics. And she always told us, do your best, do your best. And even though she wasn't there to tell me to do my best, that was instilled in me.
Great. Secretary Crittenden, this question is kind of twofold. Why do we as Cherokees serve at such a high rate in the military, do you think? And then, tell us about, your experiences in the military.
Well, we have a history of service and protecting our communities and our tribes and stuff. When we have a community, we want to make sure that our people are safe and that we can work and live and get by and everything. And so when this country is attacked, that just transcends to service for our country too. Even through history of not having rights, that we were here, we were here first. And a lot of our people served in the military before they could even vote. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows that. But I think part of the tradition of taking care of our families, providing safety and security for our communities, I think it goes to the state and the federal level, and anybody that attacks the country or threatens us, it brings out that warrior spirit in us. And so I think that's part of it. And then, as Meda mentioned a while ago, different people in her family, I had several people in my family that served the country. Mm-hmm. And it gets in, I always say it gets in the blood, service does. And you want to serve, you're proud to serve. Dad served, Grandpa served, this one served. And so I think it's just instilled in us to do that. Mm-hmm. And as far as my service, much like Meda said, me and a friend of mine we were working at a chicken plant up north of Westville, Salem Springs, and it became Plus Poultry. But back when we worked there, it was Crosstown, and we didn't get, we wasn't making much money, and Vietnam was heating up. Our president had got killed. Kennedy got killed in '63, and Vietnam was heating up. So we said, now, man, we don't want to get drafted. So, and Dad had always told us, boys, if you're going in the military during a wartime, go in the Air Force or the Navy. Meda, not the Marines or the Army. He said so, and I said, why, Dad? You were in the Army in World War II. He said, well, if you go in the Air Force or the Navy, you'll have a bed to sleep in, you'll have hot food, and you'll have a place to take a bath. And the other two branches, it's no guarantee. So I got to serve, and I thought, after a year in California, basically, and a year and a half on Guam, I was in radio communications. I thought, I'm not ever going to Vietnam or in the war zone. And then I went to Long Beach and got on the flat top, and it had a bunch of Marines and helicopters, and we went to Vietnam. So when people talk to me about cruises, I tell them I'm not real high on them. I only had one, and I wound up in a war zone. So anyhow, but I think as a young man, I was 19 and a half. I made some good choices, and I made some of the other kind of choices when I was young. That was a good choice. I got to come home. I got to go to school on the GI Bill. I learned to respect the flag, which I did anyhow, but it was more so now. I learned to take orders, whether I liked them or not, and they grow you up, Jennifer. They grow you up. So I'm glad I served this country. Proud of this country.
Well, thank you both. Another question for you, Ms. Nix. Tell us about your sense of civic pride when it relates to military service and the protection of our freedoms.
Well, like Joe said, we do have freedom because of, our service to our country. And the Marine Corps taught me what it was to work hard. So, and of course, I love my mom. I miss my mom today, but her being who she was and the love that she gave me, this was instilled in me, and I love my country. And as far as what I do today and the way that I feel about my country and what I do today, I just always want to do my best. I want to do my best. I want to work hard and just, do what I can to make this a better place.
Love that. Secretary Crittenden, tell us about the Warrior Medal and Ribbon that the Cherokee Nation awards to some individuals and the process it takes to receive one.
Jennifer, that medal that we're so proud of was started under the former administration of Chad Smith, and Joe Grayson was the deputy at the time, and he would actually pin the medal on the warrior, the Cherokee warrior. To get one of those, to receive one of those, a family member can recommend their veteran family member to us. And we got a little application that we put together, and it asks about their service, when they entered, when they got out. We ask for a DD-214, and we only award that medal to those who received honorable service, okay? And also, we only award it to those that are Cherokee tribal members. We honor all vets, but the Medal of Patriotism and the Warrior Award only goes to Cherokee warriors. And so once we get that information back, then of course, the last 2 years, we haven't done the council meetings in person. And so they used to come 3 or 4 at a time to meetings, and we would do the award in person. And I was privileged to be able to do that all through while I was deputy. And now Deputy Warner reads their bio. I still get to do the medal when we do that. We're getting ready to start in June to start the process. Excellent. But in the meantime, we would mail them to them, especially if they lived quite a ways away. But we're proud that we can do that for our veterans, and they get a little, they get filmed, they get to tell their story, and it, hits the newspaper back home, and it's good. It's good for them. It's good, they get a little notoriety for their service, and they're very deserving of it, and we're glad to be able to do it.
Yeah, well deserved. Well, and so for any of you watching out there and you might want to nominate one of your family members, that information is available at CherokeesAtLarge.org. That's the website where you can find more information to nominate somebody. Yeah. It's a great service. Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Meda, back to you. What valuable lessons would you say you learned while serving that you carry with you today even?
While in the service, especially boot camp, I had to learn to work hard. I had to learn to work hard to get through boot camp. It was so physical, and of course I give credit to my mom. My mom instilled a work ethic in me, and to always, just to do my best, to strive to do my best. So there, my mom wasn't with me there, but in spirit she was, and I had to do this, so I did it. And today I'm I teach, and that is what I instill in my students. I want them to be good students, but I also want them to be good citizens. And if they do their best, if I know they've tried their best, I don't care if they make a D. I just want that child to know that, that I care about them, but I want them to do their best and work hard, and that's what I do. I want to do the best at what I do. I want to do my best today in talking to you and talking to Joe here, the people that I meet. I want to be my best.
Yeah. Yes. And Ms. Nix is a teacher, a 5th grade teacher at the Cherokee Immersion School, so it's nice to know that you're instilling that in them at the immersion school as well. What about you? What are some of the lessons that you carry with you today?
Well, I can talk to you about kind of like what Meda was saying. We had a training site right next to us when I was in boot camp. That was the Marine Training Center there. And long after we quit our calisthenics and all of our chores, if you will, the Marines were still out there running that fence. Here we go, and I think, oh my gosh, if I was on the other side of the fence, and about the first week I was there, I wasn't liking it too good. And I looked out there at that fence and I thought, I can be over that fence in 5 seconds and out of here. And then I thought, if I show up at my dad's house hitchhiking, I can't stay there. He won't let me. he'll straighten me out and send me back. And so the work ethic that he instilled in me, and remember who you are, where you come from, remember your family, what's your name, kind of what Meda was saying. That made me, hey, nobody made me go, Jennifer. I volunteered. And if the rest of them boys could handle it, I was going to do it too, Meda, right?
Right.
And so it instills that overcome and conquer, or dedication, or determination, and it's played well through life in different situations. I really enjoy the fact that I served this country, and for what all it done for me as an individual.
Great. My final question for you, Secretary Crittenden, is where can veterans who are not affiliated with Cherokee Nation's Veteran Affairs get more information, as well as how can families honor their own veterans through your office?
Well, families who are not Cherokee, okay, they can contact us. Like I say, we serve any veteran, or try to, that comes in the door or calls. We offer, coffee and donuts, a place to sit and talk. We talk to a lot of people. And when we think of the problems that veterans have, whether it be homelessness, whether they're having problems psychologically, whatever, we try to pay attention, and we try to tell them, give them contact numbers and names. With the VA at Muskogee, we've got an adjustment counselor that's housed at our facility to help with claims and the service-connected disability, upgrades and things. We have people from the Oklahoma Department of Veterans Administration that come there to help with claims and things. We've got several organizations right there in Tahlequah, the American Legion and the DAV and different folks like that. We got tons of contact numbers and things. And a person, if they've got a computer at home, they can go to va.gov, and there's worlds and worlds of stuff about how to help. And anytime a veteran calls a VA facility, they don't get to someone say, hello, how you doing? What can I do for you? You got to listen to all that stuff. The first thing they hear is, if you're thinking about hurting yourself or harming yourself or someone else, call the crisis line. And they do that before they start the other stuff. So veterans can access help. We just need to help steer them to that.
Yeah. It's very important. There are a lot of services to take full advantage of.
Yeah.
I know you all encourage that. Thank you both very much for this enlightening discussion, and I would like to personally thank both of you for your service to our country and your ongoing representation of veterans. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
It's been good. Yes, thank you, Meda.
Jacko Clark was the quintessential Cherokee warrior, the first American Indian to graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy, the Patton of the Pacific, as he was called during World War II, and a 4-star admiral. A guided missile ship was also named in Jacko's honor. Please take a look at this segment from OsiyoTV.
When World War II first broke out, he became captain of his first ship, the Swanee, and afterwards he was repositioned to the Pacific Theater. It was really at this time that the thought of the aircraft carrier and all the theories that they had really hit home, that if we're going to take the fight to them, we need these mobile platforms to be able to launch bombing raids. They really stopped the Japanese in their place, and then Jacko would become the captain of the USS Yorktown, the fightingest lady of the U.S. Navy.
He took the Yorktown out, and he spearheaded the occupation of the Central and the Western Pacific Islands.
His main fixation was the Bonins, Chichijima, Iwo Jima, and Hahajima.
Without those strategic supply depots, it couldn't have been done.
He attacked that area more than any other area in the Pacific Theater, so much so that they actually called it the Jacko Jima Development Corporation. And his pilots actually made these little certificates that was worth 1 share in the Jacko Jima Development Corporation. And every pilot who made a bombing run on the Bonins was given one.
He was aggressive, And he was a demanding leader. He was extremely intimidating.
We'll never be ready for combat unless you flight deck crews learn right now to work as a team. Don't you men realize that before long we'll be in dangerous waters? Get it over to starboard! Way over to starboard!
He ran a tight ship. You know, he expected the best out of his sailors, but he was always quick to praise.
The thing that he did to mitigate the negative effects that could come from being a very strong personality on the bridge was that he took care of his people.
He had pilots who said, you know, we'd follow you into hell. I mean, they trusted him. I mean, he was the quintessential captain.
The military commanders that came out of the Greatest Generation certainly were of a different breed than our military commanders today. I don't think they reached the same level of celebrity as Jacko or Patton did. The press was all over promoting their successes in both Europe and the Pacific.
He later on would move over and be on the USS Hornet as well when he became an admiral, and was in charge of his own task force. And his men over there loved him just the same.
That was very inspirational. Admiral Clark's entire story, along with the Warrior Flight story, can be viewed anytime at OsiyoTV. Okay, I am joined now by Cherokee Nation citizen and former Cherokee Nation Chief Justice Dwight Birdwell, who is also an Army veteran awarded 2 Silver Stars and 2 Purple Hearts for his courageous action and leadership in Vietnam. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also joined by Cherokee citizen Lieutenant Colonel Kimberlee Christian. She is currently the Chief of the Information Technology Training Center at the Army National Guard Professional Education Center. Her duties include training both Army and Air National Guard cyber and cybersecurity personnel. Big jobs. I am so happy to have you both here with us today. Thanks for coming here and being with us. Thank you. Justice Birdwell, I'll start with you. Beyond the medals and citations, tell us about your experiences in Vietnam. If you can describe how you felt to first set foot on foreign soil during that very intense war.
Well, actually, I had spent 10 months in Korea on the DMZ, went straight to Vietnam, and when we landed and we were being transported to our duty station, the bus had grenade wire, that is wire to keep grenades from coming in, and I didn't know what to expect. It was a completely different environment to anything I'd ever been exposed, that rapidly adapted and got used to it. And I stayed there, it felt like so long that I belonged there. And it was just an overwhelming experience I've never forgotten.
Yeah, I was speaking with Secretary Crittenden earlier, and he just said, you know, you really saw a lot when you were there. You really did.
I did that. But probably no more than other men as well as women who served there.
Yeah. Colonel Christian, your position carries enormous responsibilities, especially in today's climate of constant cyber warfare and cyber terrorism. We hear about it all the time. Will you describe a typical day and what that's like for you and your staff without any security breaches, of course?
No problem. Well, I've served on everything from an 8-man team to a 75-man team, so it varies. So I've done everything from you go in and you're the one that investigates how the attack occurred, determine what steps need to be taken to remediate the attack, and to being on the team that is actively trying to prevent the attack. So it's always a challenge because the enemy never seems to sleep sometimes. There's a lot more of them than there are of you, and they have no qualms at trying to get in any direction that they can. So a lot of what you do is constantly educating people, educating the end user, educating yourself and your team members, and then that's translated into a lot of what I do now. I'm educating all of the National Guard in cybersecurity and cyber itself. So it's a never-ending challenge. It's one I've greatly enjoyed, and it's something that I hope to bring to the Cherokee Nation someday, and also bring other countries are doing this at a very young age, teaching their children to do cyber at a very young age. It's something that we have not quite started everywhere in the US, and that's kind of a passion of mine, is that I would like to bring that to the children. And I've even started programs with the Army through the DoD and bringing cyber education to grade schools and high schools. So education is a passion.
Oh, I love to hear that. As a parent, I would welcome you to the Cherokee Nation to teach our children, because it seems like it's so very important.
It is.
Justice Birdwell, after all the military actions you participated in, how did it feel to you to return home, and how did you learn to cope with everything that you had experienced?
I learned to take it one day at a time. And after a period, it became a week at a time, a month at a time, a year at a time. But I was released in late December '68, started college in January '69. Often I'd be sitting in class and my mind was in Vietnam. But I knew I had to listen to the professors or I wasn't going to pass. So that's where I adopted my one day at a time philosophy. And it's worked great.
One day at a time.
Yes.
Lieutenant Colonel Christian, what motivated you to join the National Guard, and what mindset has guided you through the ranks to a top position?
So I was in college. I'd always wanted to be in the military. I went off to Oklahoma State, started out in the Air Force ROTC, but I needed a way to pay for college. The Air Force didn't really have any programs at the time to help you be in the Air Force and pay for college at the same time. So the Army, at Oklahoma State at the time, the Army and the Air Force ROTC shared the same building. And the Army, we have a program for you. Come join us. You can join the National Guard. We'll help pay for college. 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. You'll have money to live on outside of college. And it helped. I really wanted to be in the Army versus the Air Force. No offense to any Air Force brethren out there, but I really wanted to be in the Army, and it was my opportunity. I jumped on it. I seized it. I ran with it. And then being a female in the military, especially because I joined in 1990, there weren't a whole lot of female officers. So you really had to have the mindset that I am going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to get all the information that I can get. And you walked into every briefing, every meeting, you had to be 10 times better than your male counterparts, a lot of times just to get into the briefing. But that mindset in the 90s, and I'd grown up playing sports, so it's kind of a very competitive mindset I already had. It served me well. I just always determined I was going to be the best at what I was doing, and I made it to where I did today.
Wow. Sounds like you have a lot of interesting experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Justice Birdwell, you co-authored a book about your Vietnam experiences. What can you say to the young soldiers or new veterans who are out there about dealing with those stressors regarding returning to the civilian population and our so-called normal everyday life?
Again, I think one day at a time works well for everyone. The military does offer a lot of opportunities depending on what branch and what training you choose. It's just a great opportunity, but once you get out, don't look back. Go ahead. You can't change what you've done. You can't change the past, but look to the future. If you look at the future, take it one day at a time, a week at a time. It's a remarkable experience and background to have been in the military, and will serve you well in life.
Okay. Lieutenant Colonel Christian, what words can you share to young women considering joining or who are active duty, who may want to make a career in the National Guard like you have?
I would say the National Guard gives you the best of both worlds. A lot of people don't understand that you can be a traditional guardsman, which is 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, or you can be an active duty Guard Reserve, such as myself. So that's your full-time Guard. And you can work at the state level, you can work at the national level. We take people from active duty and they come over, and you can get postings all over the world. with the National Guard. You don't have to be active duty Army, or you can simply stay in your state that you live in. It's completely up to you. But for females, I would especially say, like when I got in, you could not be combat arms. You were limited to what professions you could choose in the military. Now it's wide open. Don't set limits on yourself, because other people will try to set limits on you. Don't set them on yourself, and don't let other people set them on you. Just go for what you want to do.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. Justice Birdwell, similar question. What advice do you have for a young person considering signing up for the military?
Consider it carefully, and if you feel like it's something you want to do it. If you're not sure you want to do it for a long period of time, or 3 or 4 years, you can always join the National Guard, Army National Guard, or Air Force Guard, and see if you like it, and then you can commit to full time. But it's a worthy experience if you'll make the commitment, and I do recommend it.
Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Christian, you are also the officer in charge of the suicide prevention program for the Missouri National Guard at one point in your career. You know, this is a heavy topic, but it's a worthy topic and a serious topic. Can you talk about PTSD and suicide in the military and what you've experienced over the years?
So when I first joined, there was quite a stigma to seeking help for PTSD or any kind of mental health. And since 2004, probably, I have lost at least 6 friends and colleagues due to suicide. And then there's been countless others that have had suicidal ideations. So the military understands they have a problem. They may not understand how to fix the problem quite yet, but they are trying. And true leaders encourage the people underneath them to seek help, and they're trying to remove that stigma. There's a long history of it. It's going to take a while to remove it, but they are working to remove that stigma. I mean, I know countless generals and colonels that seek help. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's okay to say you're not okay and to get help.
Great. Thank you. And if you or someone you know is suffering from PTSD, please call 1-800-SUICIDE. That is 1-800-784-2433. Or you can text the word LISTEN to 741-741. At this time, I was going to ask if there's anything else that you would like to add, Justice Birdwell. Anything else you want to tell people about military service?
Well, I'm proud to have served. It was something that from an early age I knew I had to do. And actually I joined before I got out of high school and asked to go to Vietnam, but at the time there were too many people wanting to go with experience, so I went to Korea. But it was a wonderful opportunity to learn, and it's helped me immensely in life. So again, that's something that I think anyone considering their future should definitely consider the military.
Thank you. And my final question for you, Lieutenant Colonel Christian, you requested the inclusion of the Cherokee Nation flag for an important ceremony. This was the first time a flag from another nation was included at a ceremony at the National Guard Bureau. Why was this so important to you, and what was the reaction?
So I am very proud of my Cherokee heritage, and I was a Cherokee Nation citizen. So when the protocol office first found out I was going to have the flag on the stage, they informed me that they don't have other nations' flags on the stage. And so I just very politely explained to them, well, we were a nation before the United States was a nation, so my flag's going to be on the stage. And they really didn't know how to react to that, so my flag was on the stage. But yes, it was very important for me to let everybody know that I am not just a U.S. citizen, I am a Cherokee Nation citizen.
Well, we applaud you for that. Thank you so much. That makes us all very proud. And thank you both for being here and providing this great information. And thank you both for your service to our country and protecting our freedoms. And we as Cherokees and United States citizens, of course, both nations, we commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, at-large counselor, Special Intelligence Officer, and Lieutenant Commander, retired, Johnny Jack Kidwell, recently inducted into the U.S. Coast Guard's OCS Wall of Gallantry, will close the show for us. And we will leave you with another performance from Cherokee National Treasure, Tommy Wildcat. Wado for joining us today. Counselor Kidwell?
Osio I'm at-large Tribal Councilor Johnny Jack Kidwell. Thank you for watching today's Warrior edition of Salagi Wherever We Are. I also want to thank Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., Deputy Principal Chief Bryan Warner, and our Secretary of Veteran Affairs, S. Joe Crittenden, for their ongoing and steadfast support of all things veteran-related in and around the Cherokee Nation. Today, members of the Cherokee Nation Administration talked about the services and programs available to our veterans, like the upcoming Warrior Flight, veteran housing initiatives, and the events and programming available at the Veteran Center in Tahlequah and throughout the reservation. We also heard about the unimaginable impacts of post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury are having on our veteran community. Allow me to wrap up today's message by focusing on a topic that is of the utmost importance to me personally, as well as every other Cherokee leader you heard from today, and that's Native American veteran homelessness. Native veterans have the highest rate of homelessness compared to all other race or ethnic groups, all of them. According to some estimates, we have 10 times more homeless Native veterans than we do non-Native veterans. 10 times. Studies show that when compared to their non-Native counterparts, Native veterans are younger, proportionally more female, have lower incomes, are less educated, and are more likely to be unemployed. I say all of this to make the point that Native veteran homelessness is an issue that requires all hands on deck to make a positive difference. If you know a veteran who is homeless or you suspect might be at risk of homelessness, call the National Call Center for Homeless Veterans immediately. That number is 877-424-3838. This call can be made by anyone, a family member, a friend, even the veteran themselves. This call is free, confidential, and is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Additionally, we're asking all Cherokee veterans to register in the Gadoogie portal at cherokee.org, allowing us to better identify, track, and find programs for those we hold in highest regard and esteem, our Cherokee warriors. Again, I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this Warrior edition of Salagi Wherever We Are. Wado.
Hello, the garden here we are, do da go high.